No PowerPoint in this tutorial, we're just going to go straight into the code. And what I've done now is I created a new Windows game application. Go to File, New, Project, and choose Windows Game, and name it anything you want. I named XNA Tutorial. Okay, so first let's discuss in depth what the code is about. We talked a little bit about the using, and basically all you have to remember is we are telling the compiler that we are using certain code from something else, which just basically shortens our coding time a lot, so you can use it. After that we have our namespace, which we've discussed. Then we have public class game1. We discussed classes in the last two tutorials, but we didn't discuss the one thing that you see after game 1. There's a colon, and then Microsoft.xna.framework.game. This colon and class game from Microsoft.xna.framework is a parent to public class game1, which means that public class game1 inherits from Microsoft.xna.framework.game. So anything that game can pass on, game1 catches. Okay, inside the class we have two attributes at the very beginning. We have a graphics device manager called graphics. This is where we put all of our graphics stuff. Then we have a content manager, content, which is where we're going to load our sprite, load our fonts and stuff like that. After that we have the constructor, and this is where we initialize our graphics and content. Graphics were just setting as new graphics manager, and we're passing it this. Now we didn't go into what this means, and you don't have to at this moment. Just at this moment, just understand that this works. In content, we're gonna make a new content manager. We're gonna pass it services, which is, as you hover over it, it'll say game service container game.services. So as you see, the game is the class. So we get services from our parent class. So we inherited services. Next we have the initialize, and you put your initialize logic here. Microsoft did a good job in commenting, summarizing what methods do and where to put your stuff here. The to do, add your initialization logic here. That's where you put your initialization logic. Same thing with load graphics content. Load any resource management mode automatic content here, and manual content here. We'll go into that later on. Same thing with unload. This is what will happen when the application closes. Update. We'll update our, check the gamepad state, keyboard state, update our sprite position, update the text in the windows. Anything to be updated goes here. And finally, draw. As you remember the first tutorial, I told you that a 2D game is a static image on for a split second, cleared off, redrawn. Cleared off, redrawn. It gives us that the illusion that we're moving. Now, I've not done much 3D game development yet, but I'm pretty sure you have to actually do some movement with the meshes to make sure that he moves his arms correctly and stuff like that. But for 2D game development, it's a static image on there for a split second, cleared off, on, for a split second again, cleared. We update our position, on, clear, and it just repeats until we quit our program. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the whole engine. This is the basic engine. You can, of course, build on top of this to make a better one, but I don't see why you would want to do more work than you should need to. Okay, so now let's draw an image. First we need to get a sprite. As you see in our Solution Explorer to the right, we have the Solution XNA Tutorial 1 project. The project is the XNA Tutorial, it's in bold, and you see the windows. Right click that and choose Add. You can't see that, can you? No, you cannot. Go to Add Existing Item. You cannot see that, but go to Existing Item. Now, in this window, in the Files of Type, change Visual C# files to Content Pipeline files. And as you can see, I added mine here, but you might have to go look for your specific sprite. And it's a PNG file, so yay for transparency. We don't have to do much work for adding transparency to our sprites. Okay, now go to View. I need to find a Properties window. And now open the Properties window down here. When you hover over up Sprite, or click Sprite, you will see the asset name Sprite. That's what we'll need later on, but not now. We need to do some stuff for now. Okay, so there's many things we need to do first. Let's add in our initialization method, if I can find it. Let's add some methods here. Actually, let's make them attributes. So let's go to the top. Let's make them attributes. Under Content Manager, Content, semicolon, press Enter and let's add a texture 2D, capital D, and then you can know it works because it's in teal, or yeah, teal, and then call it just texture, anything you want, semicolon. Now we need a sprite batch. Sprite batch will hold our draw methods and our draw string methods, or draw text, and all the good stuff that we can draw with. So add the sprite batch and call it, I call it S batch, semicolon. Okay, so now that that is done, we need to have two other variables, and I'm just gonna fast forward here and go into the vectors. Now vectors are good for positions, velocity, acceleration, and all the good stuff. Vector 2 is X and Y, Vector 3 is X, Y, and Z. That can be 3D gaming. But Vector 2 can hold the float. It's a variable type float, and it just holds X and Y, so you can use it for position, velocity, acceleration, and all the other stuff that you want X and Y for. So let's add two vector 2's, or just one, and call it sprite position, semicolon. Now that that is done, we are going to load the graphics content in our graphics content. And this is where we're going to put automatic. So we're going to put texture is equal to content that load. And here we do a less than, and then we need to pass it a asset name. So what is our texture going to be? It's going to be a texture 2D. And now we do a greater than, and then a parenthesis, and then we pass the asset name. The asset name is we click Sprite again, and we find our asset name is Sprite. Copy that, and we paste that by doing double quote, paste it, double quote. It's that easy to bring a sprite into your program. It's that easy. Now, if it was in a different folder, we would have to do something else. And we'll go into that later on. But if it's not in a different folder, this is all you need to do. Okay, so now we need to do something else here. Let's initialize our sprite. Go back to the initialize method and change sprite position is equal to new vector2 open parenthesis and choose the 3 of 3. So we're going to pass it float values x and y. So we just want it centered in the window. Or actually, yeah. So let's just say, make it easy, 60.0f, comma 60.0f. Just make it simple, no math involved here. So now that we've got our sprite position, we're ready to draw it. So we go down to the very last method, which is draw. After graphics device.clear, we do our sbatch. We do sbatch.begin. And now we need to do a sprite blend mode .alpha blend. And this will just do transparency for us. Now to actually draw the sprite. And I actually did this above the to do, but it's okay. So to draw the sprite, we do sbatch, no, not sbyte, .draw, and we do our texture, position, and color. Okay, so our texture is texture. I'm using 2 of 7. So texture, comma, sprite position, comma, color dot white. No, not wheat. Now, the texture is of course our texture to be drawn. Our position, our sprite position is of course where the position will be drawn on the monitor. And color dot white refers to, if it's color dot white, the full thing will be drawn. If it's color dot black, then nothing will be drawn. It's sort of the how much do we draw. If it's gray, it'll be 50% opaque, or transparency 50%. I forgot one very important thing. We need to initialize sprite batch. So inside of our initialize, sbatch is equal to new sprite batch. And let's pass it to what our graphics device is, called graphics. Okay, sbatch is equal to new sprite batch parentheses graphics.graphic device. We need to end it because we've begun it, now we need to end it. So sbatch dot end. Simple. Mistake. So now our sprite's drawn. I only did a red circle and it's drawn to the screen. If we want, we can change it later to, let's do 300f60f. So now it's 300 over here and 60 down. And as you can see, the mouse exits when we go into the window. So that's how you draw a sprite to the monitor. You need the position, you need the sprite batch, you need the texture, and you need to initialize those. And you need to make sure you end it after you begin, and you need to make sure you draw in between begin and end. And what else? Make sure you load the sprite or load the texture by using content.load less than what it's going to be. It's going to be a texture 2D, so greater than parenthesis quote the asset name quote and parenthesis semicolon. Initialize the sprite position, and make sure you're using all the using statements. So we can go even further, but I'm going to leave that for next tutorial. Next tutorial we're going to make the sprite move, not using keyboard input. We're not going to do that yet, but we're going to make it move and animate, and we're going to have